We are going to have some fun. I got a little bit of spice and a little bit of tea, things that I need to talk to you about. And if we get to number 3, I promise you, if you do the third thing that I tell you, you're going to be miserable, and it's going to not be a fun experience because we experienced it. So today, here's what we're talking about. Don't buy from these builders, and I'm going to spill a lot of tea and a lot of drama, and hopefully I don't get canceled for this. It's not gonna be that bad. So I got like 5 or 6 things on my list of things to consider if you're thinking new construction, and I wouldn't buy from these builders. And like I said, the third one is it's there. So if we haven't met before, my name is Zach. My team and I, we sell new construction real estate here in DFW. We're here to be a resource, help you with anything we can. Of course, as always, do the thing down below if you have questions or you need representation, buying from builder's inventory or building from the ground up. Number 1, so builders, I would not buy from these builders. This is my number 1. And these are my opinion. You're welcome to your opinion, but these are my opinions. Number 1, I would not buy a townhome outside of the inner part of the DFW circle. Right. So if you are looking at the map of DFW and we put it like right there, basically what you look at is this map makes concentric circles, right? So you've got like 635 and it wraps around, and then you kind of get the outer loop, and then you get the like outer loop, right? And you get out into the suburbs and all of these things. And I think the further in toward the city you go, you see, townhomes, condos, like connected wall homes, however you want to call those things. And I think they work toward the inner parts of the city. But what we're seeing right now is there's a couple of builders that are building these on the like outskirts, like suburbs, like Princeton, Roy City. I saw them in Aubrey. I saw maybe some in Forney. Like, I just don't know that these make sense in those spaces. Like, if you're looking at this and you're like, hey, yeah, we don't want a yard, we don't want anything to maintain, and it works for our lifestyle. Cool. I think that's fine. However, I need you to understand that like long term, you're probably not going to have the resell that you think you will, right? The townhome in Uptown doesn't resell the same way the townhome in Roy City sells. And I can say that because we live out in Roy City, and I know, and I'm watching them go up, and I look at them and I scratch my head and I'm like, what are y'all doing? Who's gonna buy this 3-story thing for basically the same price as a fully disconnected single family home? It doesn't really make sense to me. So if you're looking at it on, like I said, if you want it, do it. But just know on the long term, it's probably not going to appreciate the way that a traditional single family new construction home is going to appreciate, especially out in the suburbs where you are more than 30 to 45 minutes to the city center of Dallas, right? Like I said, if it's in that inner looping, I would give you so far as like Plano, Carrollton, Farmers Branch area there, potentially Frisco, because there's a lot of development going on in Frisco. If it's in there and within inside probably the George Bush or right on the George Bush, it might make sense. Anything I think getting outside of that, in my opinion, I don't know if that makes sense, and I probably would hold off, and I would look at something maybe like a garden home, or if you're like, hey, we just don't want to maintain a yard. Like, there are other options that I think will appreciate better and will turn into a long-term better investment than that townhome in like a way out suburb, because I just don't think it fits the market and the clientele. And builders are doing it to try and, like, of course, squeeze profitability, right? They want to make more money. They want to get more homes on the ground. They're trying to get around zoning issues, whatever it is. I just don't think it makes sense in those outskirts sort of areas. And if it were me, I would say don't buy it. Number 2, I would say you probably don't want to buy from a gigantic, huge, ginormous, you catch the words I'm using, builder that might be trying to put lakes, lagoons, and beachfront property in the middle of DFW. That's all I'm going to say. The last time I checked, there should not be a beach in Sigaville, Texas. But they're trying to put one there. There should not be a giant waterfront lagoon on the backside of Forney High School. But the gigantic, huge, enormous, I can't say the name because it might get me canceled. They're trying to put them there. And the last time I checked, looks like there's a ton of promises going in on things like that, but nothing really significant happening in those places. They've all got all these different HOAs, and they're going to be open to the public, to be honest. Like, a lot of them have said, hey, we're building all these crazy amenities, and it's not just going to be for the residents of the community, it's going to be for the residents of the city. They're going to be able to buy their way into it. And so you've just got some complications going on with that. Not to mention, I think the quality in some of those neighborhoods has dipped a little bit over the last couple of years. And so I would just be very careful. And that goes for anything, like any neighborhood where you're looking, you're saying, hey, this is a master plan community and we're going to have bowling alley and lasers and waterfalls and unicorns and ponies and a golf course. Like, if it doesn't, like, that all sounds really good. They can sell you on whatever they want to sell you. I don't care who the developer is. Like, if it doesn't exist yet, I wouldn't bank on it. It might happen. They say it's going to happen, but plans can always change. Developers can change their mind. They can get into disagreements. They can do whatever they want to do. So plans change. So I would just, like, buy for the location you want, buy for the quality of builder that you want. But I would be very leery about promised amenities that don't exist yet, especially in those places with some of those builders. I would do as much research as I probably possibly could, and I think I would try and find some other options to get myself into before considering that. So we talked about townhomes, maybe talked about the over-promised amenities. Like I said, there are some neighborhoods where there are a ton of amenities, and if you want that, that's awesome. You're going to pay for it with your HOA and probably your PID taxes, to be honest. But if, like, make sure it makes sense for the, like, geographic location. This kind of ties back into point number one, where it's like, hey, if you're gonna build a, you know, $500,000 home in a certain parts of Dallas, like, you're going to be sitting on it for a long time hoping that you can recoup your money, and it's not appreciating at the same rate that other parts of the Metroplex are, and it's the market there can't sustain that pricing. So people are banking on that all of this growth is going to happen, and it probably will. You're just going to have a longer runway to recoup that back. And so I would kind of be careful. Number three, I teased this one at the beginning, and I told you you're probably going to be in for a rough ride if you do this, because we personally experienced this one, and it's, how do I want to say this? I got it. If you remember reading a book as a kid, there was a book about somebody that hears a who, and then they made a movie about it. It was really good. It was a brilliant movie. Hello. Somebody hears a who, or maybe it's, but more specifically, somebody hears a who connected to the Round Rock AAA baseball team of the Texas Rangers. That's a really long, like, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Y'all remember that? So somebody hears a who, specifically which who is the Round Rock blank, that team, AAA affiliate of baseball. So what happens with that one and the other builder that likes to take a giant L? They really like a giant L. They're going to take a giant L. What happens with those two is typically they build a lot of homes, like top 2 or 3 builders in the United States yearly. And also typically those neighborhoods are almost exclusively owned and developed by the two analogies, right? Independently of each other. And what happens is when they are owned and developed independently of each other with no competition, they get what we call a monopoly. Yes, monopoly. And so when there's a monopoly in a neighborhood, they have no competition, which means they have no desire to be better. They have no desire to change incentives. They have no competition that's making them change their product line so that they can outsell their neighbor. They know, like, that anybody can walk into their office and buy from them because there's nothing else there. And they are quickly snapping up land positions in a ton of different places, and they're doing a lot of exclusive developments. Well, what happens in these places is people buy them, and a lot of times it's first-time home buyers, and it's, it works out. And then they're ready to move in 2 or 3 years. Well, if you're not ready to move, that house is getting sold. And a lot of who's buying those homes are investors, and they're getting turned into rental properties. Or people are not necessarily selling them, but keeping them and making it a rental property for themselves. How do I know? Because we did the same thing. I've bought 2 of those somebody hears something homes. We sold one, and the other one that was connected to the Round Rock, we kept. I'm having a really hard time dancing around this. I hope y'all know, like, I'm gonna keep dancing. I'm gonna dance around. Anyway, we sold the first one. The second one, we started seeing our neighborhood shift a little bit and started noticing like, oh, that house is up for rent. 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 And so, I'll own it. I'll tell you, we kept it and we made it a rental property. There are on our street, there are 6 rental properties on our street, and 4 of them are privately held by corporations, right? So this is not a bashing of landlords, and I'm not gonna we're not gonna bash landlords, because I own rental property and I believe in the value of building wealth, and I believe in all of those things, and I think there are great avenues for holding property as individuals, not as corporations. That's a whole other deal. I'm not bashing that, but what I'm telling you is if you're buying in one of those neighborhoods and you are thinking you're going to stay long term, you need to expect that the neighborhood demographic around you is going to shift into a more heavily renter scenario. And it happens, and it's a lot in those neighborhoods because those homes are typically, they're a little bit cheaper. They're heavily incentivized to get into on the front end. Well, we can talk in detail about that. And then so people are either cashing out on them. Oh, and the other part of them is they are all exactly the same. So the hard part about that is not only are you probably going to end up with a lot of rental property around you within 3 to 5 years, when you try to sell it, it's going to be similar to point 1 on the recapture of the value. There's not enough that differentiates your home from the home next door, because it's got the same floor, the same cabinets, the same countertops. The only thing different is the floor plan and the brick. That's about it. So unless you have spent a ton of money updating and changing and uniquifying, making unique, a long day. Unless you spend money doing that, you're not going to be able to recoup that. And especially on those particular type of homes, they are usually being developed in multi phases. And so those are usually neighborhoods that are not hundreds of homes, but thousands of homes. And if there are thousands of homes, you need to be able to wait the builder out before you try to sell, because especially with some of those type of builders, they will always be able to undercut you. They have so much margin. They have so much product on the ground. They have so many incentives. You selling as an individual, you will lose every single time as long as they're still selling in your neighborhood, because they can beat you. They have the margins. And there's nothing you can do about it. So you're buying in one of those neighborhoods. You need to be prepared to stay for the long haul, or you need to be prepared that you're going to have rental properties around you, or you need to be prepared with an exit strategy that is your entry point, and you are making that home a rental. You're holding it, building wealth, and moving on to something else. And we could talk at length about the quality and that's a whole other separate video. We could go down that line with somebody here's a who and take a big L. We could do that. So my third one, 4, 5, and 6 are not that intense. They're still good, but we're gonna back off a little bit. Number 4, I don't know. So I'm here locally in Dallas, and like I said, we sell new construction real estate. That's what we focus on, and we're here to help with that. So I don't know that I would pick a non-local Texas builder. Let me give the caveat. There are a handful of builders that have a national presence that are more than just here in Texas, that are good, that I do like, that I sell a lot of their homes, and our team sells a lot of their homes. So we're not saying that everybody non-Texan is bad. However, George Strait said, God bless Texas with his own hand, and this is where the angels are at, right? So, did George Strait say that? Now I got to look it up. I am literally second guessing myself because I am a native Texan, and I don't know if I got that wrong. I'm gonna be so mad. It wasn't George Strait. I was giving George Strait credit for it, giving King George credit. It was not him. I'm sorry. Little Texas wrote that song. The more you know. But anyway, where was I going with that? Oh, non-local Texas builders. So there are a handful of national builders that I do like that we feel like build a good product. But some of my favorite ones to sell, honestly, are those that are local here within our Texas market, that have their roots here, that have been here a long time. Been here a long time. I'm in a mood today. That have been here for a while, that are, in Dallas, in Houston, in San Antonio, in Austin. I think they just have a little bit better pulse on what's going on here. They understand, the soil comp, I don't know. I feel like the quality is a little bit better. I also love builders that are not publicly traded, like these ones that don't have stockholders to answer to, that are privately held or employee held, or love those. But so, like I said, not knocking all the national builders, because there are some really good ones. But my favorite ones are most of the ones that are local to Texas. Number five. Like a $5 foot long. I haven't had a $5 foot long since I was in high school. Inflation. Anyway, speaking of inflation, overpriced upgrade packages. So if you're getting into a builder and you're talking through design and you start looking at it and it's like, hey, this package to go from brushed nickel to satin nickel is $15,000. That's probably an exaggeration. The tension on this is upgrades are where builders make their money. Like this is kind of profit centers for them. So as a capitalist at heart, I want them to be able to make money. I believe in the ability to make money. Like I told you that earlier. But if you start seeing that they're overpriced, that they are massive, that everything that you do with that builder is an upgrade, and you walk into their model homes and you start asking, like, here's the fun question to ask when you're in a builder's model home, because every builder upgrades their model home. Ask the salesperson, just say, hey, I was just curious, give me a dollar amount on the upgrades in this home. And most of them can kind of give you a general idea. You're like, hey, if we were to spec it out exactly like this, it would look like this number. Depending on the price point, like that's relative, right? There are some builders, not 1,000, not 1,000,000, but maybe 1,000, another word for 1,000, that a lot of their models have north of $150,000 or $200,000 worth of upgrades. And you're like, oh my gosh, and you feel like you're getting a really good deal. And I would say in those builders, you just need to start looking at the question of, like, when you ask, hey, how much of the upgrades are in this model home? Also start asking, like, hey, can I see this home like that's not a model? Can I see it as a spec home, or can I see it as one that somebody's built? Just to make sure you get the best idea about it, because like I said, they're going to charge to do the upgrades. We know that. I'm not mad that they're doing that. I just don't think that they should charge an arm, a leg, a kidney, a firstborn, and your blood to make something like that happen. So just ask those questions, kind of get an idea. There's not really a way to negotiate on the price of upgrades. I wish there was, but that would get really, really complicated. Where we can negotiate is in the incentives. Like if you're building and you're like, hey, they're not going to say, okay, well, this tile is $1,000, but for you, we'll do it for $950. It doesn't work like that. It's more like, hey, we're offering $20,000 in upgrade and design incentives. Can we get 30? It's like, okay, there's room to negotiate, but like as the price is what the price is on the structural upgrades or on the option upgrades or design. So we just need to get more money to spend. We don't need to be focused on trying to change the price on that. My last one, and this is like 6 and 7 together. I'm gonna give it to you because it's similar but different. It's like an apple and an orange, both fruits, but different. Any builder that tells you that you cannot do a third-party inspection, we are not buying from them. And any builder that tells you you will get a better deal for not having representation, we are not buying from them. That stuff is but it's stinky poop. Like, I'm not gonna cuss on here. But But if they start doing that thing, they're like, if they make it difficult for you to get a third-party inspection, or they're like, hey, if you'll cut your realtor out, and I had a builder say that to a client recently. They're like, hey, if you don't want to use your realtor, we'll give you a better deal. And I just told my client, I was like, you realize how big of a red flag that is? Like, let's just red flag. And at the end of the day, you do what you want. But I'm just here to tell you, if they're telling you that, they probably have something to hide. They don't want something to be found. Or if they're making it difficult for you to get your inspector out there, or they're saying, oh, well, we don't do drywall or pre-drywall, or we don't schedule those things, or we don't ask the dang questions. And if they try to make it difficult, I would look the other way and try and find something else. I probably have more things I could tell you, but I feel like I gave you a good list of things that I wouldn't do. I do have content on what you could do with a builder, how you can negotiate, and builders that you should buy from. And if you want to, you can check that out right here.